as Deepwoken updates more and more and months go by and they add all of these new weapons, a lot of weapons that are very old get forgotten about and never touched again. Either because they just forgot the weapon exists entirely, or they don't want to update the weapon because they don't like it. When Blood Rain got added into the game, a lot of people thought it was going to have crazy synergy with Flare Blood combos until they heard K1 say himself that he doesn't like the weapon, and that shit's never getting touched again. There's a couple more weapons in the game that the devs not only just don't like, but are also never getting updated, or at least haven't been updated in a long time. For example, you have Kier Seeger, you got the Wraith Claw, you got Ignition Decrusher. A lot of these weapons honestly don't really need to be touched. They're in good spots alone for it to be like, okay, it doesn't matter. But some weapons kind of just need buffs. Umbrite Witherblade is one of those weapons that are newer that need buffs, but it's probably gonna be forgotten about in the next few weeks because the devs just, if they would have buffed the weapon, they would have buffed the weapon by now. They clearly don't want to buff the Umbrite Witherblade for whatever reason, because it's super rare and they don't want a super rare weapon being strong, or strictly because they just don't like the Umbrite Witherblade being in the game. A lot of other weapons have that issue, that some weapons need buffs and they'll never get that update again. Flare Blood combos need that buff, but it's never getting that buff ever in its life. The Life's Final Toll is another weapon that is kind of weaker in this meta now. It's not as strong as it used to be, and it's probably never gonna get touched ever again because the devs just don't like Life's Final Toll being in the game. It's almost like it's their way of removing weapons from the game, right? If they don't want a weapon in the game, they're not going to remove it entirely, but they're just going to make it to a point where it's so much weaker than every other new weapon being added into the game that there's no point using it unless you just like the way it looks. Like, some people still use Flare Bloods, they just like the way it looks, but knowingly that weapon will never get buffed again. It'll never get touched again, and you're going to be using a ancient relic from Egypt for the rest of your life.